a lot of it goes beyond that. It's not because there's not even a lot of tolerance. There's people's safety, especially trans lives, are they're always at risk. They're one of the most high risk groups for harassment, suicide, murder, all these things.
That's that man. That's that Midas.
It's disheartening for me to know that a lot of times that's not said in conversation. We kind of dance around saying black. We dance around calling things for what they are. This is an epidemic. The average life expectancy for a trans person is 35 years old. That's lower than the country, which is Sierra Leone, I believe, that has the lowest life expectancy rate, which is 44. So, there is a huge issue with violence and with the ability to live an authentic life. But at the same time, there's so many of us who are living our lives to the fullest and not just surviving, but we're like thriving out here. And so, of course, we need to talk about the negative experiences. But another thing that we really wanted to do during this week is to highlight all the beauty, all the resiliency, the passion, and just the complexity of being trans or gender nonconforming.
Okay, so who has inspired you guys in terms of? Sorry about that. Who has inspired y'all in terms of people that you're like, oh, this is a great representation of like the excellence of someone who's transgendered? Because I view it like this: why do you have to be excellent? Why do you have to be? You just be a person. You don't have to have all these accolades and everything like that. You have a right to exist like everybody else. That's my opinion. But in terms of like people who are like, wow, you're extraordinary. You ladies, sorry, not ladies. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm really trying here. I'm really trying.
I don't mind.
Y'all.
I don't
saying
mind.
y'all. I'm sorry. I'm really trying.
I don't mean to like go away from what you just said, but what you like, what just happened right now, it's such a common thing, right? So I'm very new to being open about my gender identity. The first time that I like publicly spoke about it and like said I was gender non-conforming, gender non-binary, was at the Ally Rally panel here on campus. Yeah. And I spent an hour and a half on there talking about my identity, coming to terms with my identity, and how I'm still navigating that. And then there was an article published by The Runner where I was misgendered. And
because they're not accustomed to all.
It's hard, and I am pretty secure in my identity and fortunate that I have Club Gen and other safe spaces where I can express those feelings of being misgendered and stuff. But for other people, it's it's devastating. It's dehumanizing.
Oh, absolutely. Which what we're not trying to do here.
But the fact that you acknowledged it, you apologized, that's how we move past it, and that's how we learn. Until you have those, it's easy to like misgender someone and then be like, oops, I hope they didn't notice, I'm not going to say anything. But once you take the time to be like, hey, I know that that's not the way you identify him, and I apologize for that. So I just want to say that because it's a learning.
I'm working over here.
Yeah,
I just want to know what's the big deal. You call somebody by how they want to be called. When you're in school and you in elementary, they say, "Little Buckwheat, what do you want to be called?" He might just say Buck, and they say, "Okay, we'll just put Buck down on there. We won't call you Buckwheat." But they make it okay when you're a kid, and this is why I'm using this as an example. They make it okay when you're a kid, but when you become an adult, no, you have to be John when John feels like Joanne or Janice or whatever.
I think it's more complicated than that. With a language thing, I'm just accustomed to speaking in certain patterns. Okay,
it's hard to understand when you don't have exposure to it, or there's just there's so much. Like
someone earned a black belt in karate. I don't know. We were talking about
how to be an ally, earn a black belt in karate.
We're trying to become black belts we're trying
gender conformity.
Yes, we're trying to become black belts in how we talk and how we approach transgender and non-conforming people.
And you know what? Like as Sam said, it's difficult and it's a learning process. I know sometimes I even misgender myself, because I'm so used to saying she, or, when someone calls me she, sometimes I don't even notice it. But it's still, it's a process. It's a learning process. It takes time to become aware of these things. It takes time to learn about these things. There's a lot of complex ways to look at gender identity and expression. So, don't be disillusioned by it, and don't, it can feel overwhelming, especially if you're not exposed to these types of things.
Right.
But, you take it a day at a time. Read a little bit more every day. Ask questions to people that are willing to answer questions, and ask them in a respectful way.
I will say this, though. With all the television and all the news and all the information that comes in and out, it's not so much the respect thing. It's the fact that we as human beings seek to put things in categories, and we seek to put things in a box, even like out of the womb.
Well, that's because that's how we've learned.
Right. But it doesn't, what I'm saying is it doesn't make it right. Now,
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm giving an explanation to why we do that.
But I wanted to piggyback on something you said, because, I enjoy piggyback ridings. You damn right, that restroom, because I got breasts and a goatee, and you walk in a restroom and you getting all kind of...
You got to give more context, because we, as people who weren't privy to this conversation, we can pick up
were talking about
restroom, breasts, and goatee.
Yes, and goatee. Some of that we can kind of, decipher.
So I guess what I'm basically saying is, for me...
How about you give us a little context to the conversation?
I can talk about just like bathrooms in general.
Like, I swear I can talk. I promise you. No, I promise you. Okay, the proper context is this. So I have a hormonal imbalance. It's not that I am trans. I do have friends that are. And this is a way of me not protesting, giving up shaving for a while. This is my jump start on No Shave November. Yeah.
Is it your jump start?
my jump start on my No Shave November.
Right.
But I will say this, even with faculty members, students, or whatever, even before this facial hair, it was not so much of an issue. But the minute you don't fit into certain social norms, even within people within the LGBTQ community, it becomes that it's like a separatist amongst separatists. And when they've constantly seen you in a place or in an area, and then automatically you look just a slight bit different, or you have a little extra on your face, it becomes like this issue, this unspoken issue. You just become tolerated. And nobody should just be tolerated. It's human beings, human life. If we all say that we all value human life and that human life is sacred, then prove it. Don't just let it be words. Just simple things like that.
I just want to add on to it, because you talk a lot about tolerance and things like that, which, that's, a hot issue within itself. But a lot of it goes beyond that. It's not, because there's not even a lot of tolerance. There's people's safety, especially trans lives, are, they're always at risk. They're one of the most high-risk groups for harassment, suicide, murder, all these things. I remember when the bathroom laws were being talked about and discussed and brought to the attention, there was a whole thing. It's, people are going to use this as a way to, take advantage of people, sexually assault people, all those things. But then, there were articles coming out saying there's no reported cases of that, and it's statistically more likely that they're going to be the ones getting harassed. They're the ones that are going to face the assault, all these things, the slurs, all that. And so I think that we really need to think about how this goes beyond tolerance, and it's just someone's safety. Just the way they're navigating through the world, to going to the bathroom, right? That shouldn't be an issue. We all have to use the restroom. That's another basic need that we need to, do. But even then, some people can't do it, or they do it and they have to do it in fear, or they have to use the restroom where they don't feel comfortable, and just no one should have to live like that.
Yeah.
So do you think that all bathrooms should be, what is the new
gender neutral?
Gender neutral? Do you think all bathrooms should be gender neutral?
I think ideally yes, because we should see bathrooms as what they are, bathrooms. But I understand that not happening right away, right? So I understand how that could be something that people have to get used to, especially since we are living in a gendered world. I'm not saying we have to necessarily cater to people, but just I understand a slow transition to that rather than just replacing all the bathroom signs. I think to get there, we're really going to have to address trans issues to begin with, inform. But in terms of, like, for example, our campus, we have gender neutral bathrooms. They're not all the restrooms, but they're in different locations. We're supposed to have some in this center, and we were waiting for 2 years for proper signage, and we got some last month, but it wasn't the proper. It's still very binary. Oh yeah, we don't stand, but it's just one of those things to where we have to wait for certain things, even though we push it, and then once we get it and it's not right, then we have to locate how to fix that as well. It's just a lot of these things are something that should be an easy fix per se in terms of like implementing them, but it just shows how the process to achieving very simple things that you would think of, like just a sign on a bathroom, is an issue.
Yeah, and I think you said it best, is to solve the issue of, like, for example, gendered bathrooms, we have to address the larger picture. It seems like we live in this world where being trans or being LGBTQ in general is like accepted, right? We have marriage equality. I don't know what other type of things. I can't think of any examples right now, but insurance and all these other things. But when you really look at it, there isn't a lot of freedom to, or equity. Just last month, the White House circulated memos asking to redefine gender as being biologically proven, biologically set at birth, as being able to be proven through genetics. That memo was sent from the Department of Justice. It was also sent to the United Nations. And so, when our own administration and our own government is blatantly saying you're not valid, you don't have a right to exist in the way that you exist, then of course we're going to have all these subcategories of oppression, like not being able to use the restroom, feeling some type of pressure when you're going to shop for clothes. So,
it's like it's living under imminent threat.
Yeah, it is living under imminent threat. And, as Sam was saying earlier, just normal everyday things that you don't think about can be super troubling and you're always hyper aware when you identify in this way or you express yourself in this way, whether you're using the bathroom, whether you're shopping for clothes, whether you're in the classroom and you raise your hand. You know what I mean? I could raise my hand and somebody's going to call me a young lady or, call me ma'am or refer to me in these ways. So I think that we forget that it's not just the threat of like violence, it's just the threat of not being able to live your life.
Like being accepted, like being socially acceptable is
I think also a part of that, being socially acceptable, but also even like
being acknowledged or being seen
being
as
able to exist in general. There's just this.
Well, have you ever found, like, okay, for example, you were saying if you called in the class and someone says, young lady or whatever, do you immediately correct the people that say that, or do you just let it ride for like the sake of the environment, or what?
Like historically, traditionally for myself, I would just kind of let it ride and not say anything. I'd just be like, it's awkward. But recently, I think just for one, the runner misgendering me and just having guidance, right? Because this is my second semester back on campus, and I've only in the last year have begun to express myself in this way and to identify as non-binary. It's still new to me and it's still scary. I just started.
Well, you're rocking it, man.
I just started using they, them pronouns exclusively, right? And I think I decided that like last week. Yeah. We had that conversation. And I know that I have support. I know that my professors support me. I know that my friends support me. My family supports me. But I still haven't said it. I mean, I said it today on this podcast, but it's that feeling of like, oh my gosh, something else to add to my to-do list. Another uncomfortable conversation that I have to have. Right, another way that someone's going to misgender me because I'm, changing my pronouns or changing this or that. So it shouldn't feel that way. It should be liberating, and I'm excited. Like you said, I feel like I'm rocking it. I feel the most comfortable I've ever felt in my entire life. I feel like I can accomplish anything now. But even in that way, and even in that mental state of being, it still feels sometimes like I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to tell people. I don't want to have to announce it.
Right.
So it's like conflicting. In one way, it's liberating. In another way, it's still restrictive.
Oh, no. I
understand that.
we understand. I mean, we face it just being,
Black people, like
we just face it being black people.